You're watching the WINFL show with me, Ian McKinnon. I'm joined by Jake McGee, Patrick Jackson, and the most well-groomed man in sports media, Mr. Ben Isaacs. Hello, Ben. How are you?
I'm great. I don't think I'm the most well-groomed man. Like, Nat Coombs, I would say, is at the very least as groomed as I am.
Okay.
But maybe that just kind of, rubs off on me. Steel sharpens steel, or whatever the phrase is. But I try my best. I'm sat here in a grey hoodie, but I try my best with my my skincare and hair regimen. Certainly,
Making the rest of us look like paupers over here. Yeah. Anyway, Ben, you're a Chicago Bears fan.
Yeah,
and what a
I am
season.
again.
What a season your Chicago Bears had. And you give us your quick thoughts on the season as a whole and, even looking forward into next year.
Okay, I'll tell you something that the only people who would know this are my wife and the people in a very small Bears WhatsApp group of people I've known for a very long time. On Saturday of last week, was I cooking a chicken? Yeah. I cook outside all through the winter. It is essential. And Sunday night is usually burger night. Like, I want to be that while those games are on a Sunday at 6:00, I want to have these burgers from the grill. And at certain points, I'm distracted by the games that are going on. But this is, it has to be done. So I was cooking pork tenderloin earlier in the season on the grill,
Nice.
and it was the Bears-Bengals game, which went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and I'm holding up my phone here. Not only can you, actually, you can probably see a picture of my daughter, but what you can't see, but you could feel if you held it, were like, there's something weird on the case, and it's where I accidentally dropped it on the grill. So certain bits have slightly melted. The phone is fine, but the edge of the case is not. But it's an important part of the weekend. I will almost always do fresh burgers, roast the chicken on there, all this sort of stuff. And of course, we didn't have playoff games on Saturday. And as a Bears fan, I didn't have a Bears game. And I had so thoroughly enjoyed the season that I really missed the fact I wasn't getting a Bears game that weekend. And for lots of people who their team has been frustrating and annoying all season, let alone for perhaps a few seasons in a row, you get to the end of the season and you kind of think like, well, thank God I don't have the annoyance of that on the weekend, that everything seems bad. They either lose, which is bad, or then at winning and you think, oh, well, that's cost us a generational talent in the draft, all this sort of stuff. The Bears season was fun and thrilling the whole way through. And on Saturday, while that chicken was on the grill, I use a poultry roaster. I cannot recommend that enough, a poultry roaster. You all know the beer can chicken, right?
Yeah.
Where you sit the chicken on the can of beer, which is incredibly bad because it takes in all these toxins that are printed on the beer can, so you shouldn't do it. But the poultry roaster that I've got for my Weber, which fits into the gourmet barbecue system where there's this circle in the middle, you take it out and you put the roaster in, it functions like that. It's got the thing that basically goes up the chicken's arse and you sit it on that and all this sort of stuff. It's roasting away. I've got Bluetooth probes in it. My phone or my watch will tell me when it reaches the temperature that I want to take it out. So I sat in the living room and watched the newest episode of 1920 Football Drive, which is like an in-house Hard Knocks by the Chicago Bears. Obviously, much more sanitized than even Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
It's here's what we want you to see, but here's behind the scenes at 1920 Football Drive, which is the address of Hallis Hall, their headquarters. And it was kind of the run-up to and their kind of highlights of the Packers wildcard game. And during watching 1920 Football Drive, I cried. I was so emotional that I cried. I mean, I just cried. I sobbed. I'll be honest with you. I sobbed. And what it was I realized that I enjoyed the Bears season more than any season that I've enjoyed since I was a child. So I'm not even the '06 season where they went to the Super Bowl, which I did very much enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
I felt childlike wonder during the Bears season this year. And every game day, I felt like a kid again. That I was living and dying with this team whenever I got the chance to watch them, and there was just joy. Wasn't always going to be a win, but you felt like we're in any game right now, and I get to just enjoy these games as a fan. And it was a beautiful, beautiful journey. I actually think they probably should have beaten the Rams. I don't think they're necessarily a better team than the Rams, but they should have beaten the Rams.
They had the chances, yeah.
They absolutely did. But the whole season, I just want to give that season a big hug. And the fact that the team got like a standing ovation coming off the field against the Rams, the way that the fans embraced that team, the way that it went, the love that everyone had for Ben Johnson and all the different personalities on this team was something that I have just not been a part of for a long time. And there's a big difference between a team that's winning
mm-hmm.
and a team that you just love them. And this year's incarnation of the Bears, I just absolutely loved them. It was an absolute privilege to be able to just be a part of the roller coaster ride that season was. And earlier in the year, I'd gone to a Bears watch party. It was after one of the London games, at Tottenham, I think. And I had got down to this place somewhere near Liverpool Street. And it was the Bears-Saints game, which was not a very exciting game. The Saints are obviously not a good, season's over, were not a good team. But the game itself wasn't that great either. The Bears kind of played down to that level a bit. Wasn't particularly exciting. I mean, I got to watch it with Peanut Tillman, which is nice.
Very nice.
Because he's a god among men. There's a great story on The Athletic today about him and his life at the FBI. And he left the FBI because of the immigration crackdown, that he was not comfortable with what the FBI were being asked to do alongside ICE. And I'd said to him when I was there, I'm not going to probe you on that. That is something you don't want to just be speaking to like a random journalist in London about, but you're just a man of honor. And I loved you as a player, and you just went up even further in my estimation. He should be a Hall of Famer. I put that on Twitter today. I did a podcast the day after that Saints game, a Saints podcast that I'd had booked in for ages. And what I'd said to the host there was that I hope that Saints fans that the Saints would do enough that the Saints fans could just enjoy the games, because that is all we really expect and want. If anyone goes into the season with their team and they think, I expect to win the Super Bowl, then you're either going to be disappointed, or when it happens, you'll be like, well, good. That's what I expected. There's no joy in that. But if you feel that your team that you're watching is doing their absolute best, that they are really trying, that they absolutely care, and they are going to keep it close, then you can just enjoy the games. And that is all a fan really wants. And it's sometimes difficult for me to just watch things as a fan, because I don't always get to be partisan, and I kind of forced myself to be partisan at points this season. But everyone just wants to enjoy the games, right? It's not simply how many games you've won, but I've been able to enjoy the games this season. And not every fan base gets that, and I feel the Bears fan base generally has not got that. And I see Jets fans going absolutely crazy, and things like, why didn't we get a head coach that was able to turn things around in year one the way that Liam Cohen did, or Ben Johnson did, or Mike Vrabel did, and all this sort of stuff. And I absolutely get it, because it can be miserable for large groups of fans, and we just want to enjoy the games. And my God, did I enjoy the games this season. And when the Bears lost to the Rams, if you've been a Bears fan through the course of that season, you can't look at the way they lost against the Rams and feel too aggrieved, because that's how you've been winning games.
Yeah.
You know, you can't win them all. And there comes a point, okay, well, look, and that moment where they were able to take it to overtime, that incredible fourth down pass to Cole Kmet, you still got those moments. And frankly, if that pass then wasn't intercepted, if that had ended up being a completion, there's a good chance the Bears were in field goal range and they'd have been playing in Seattle last week, and who knows what could have happened. But these things happen. The Bears live by the sword and die by the sword. They go for the jugular, they will take risks, knowing that it can't come off every single time. And it didn't come off, but that's how it goes. Ben Johnson, love the guy. He is going to be bold. Sometimes it won't work, but I can't be like, oh, I love it when it works, and then, oh, he's crazy when it doesn't work. And that's been the Bears season. And the first two games were horrendous, and I was questioning everything. And Nat was doing the Channel 5 game, the Bears Cowboys, and I'd been sending him messages about the Bears, and it all just changed. All changed that night, and I've loved it. I've loved it. I can't remember exactly what you'd asked me about the Bears, but my God, I've loved it.
I was literally just asking you what you made of their season, and you have answered it.
Yeah, it was not bad.
You have answered it. I mean, it's quite funny because the way the Bears have been, it's almost in the same way that both the Jaguars and the Saints have been, because the Jaguars have a new coach and turns it around and they make the playoffs and it's all good. And as you mentioned, Ben, with Jake's team, the Saints, if you're not going to win, if you're not going to be going to the playoffs and be a contender, please at least be interesting to watch.
Yes.
Try your best, because there's nothing worse, and many, many franchises will look at this, than winning 7 games and being boring. And you don't get a draft pick. And you don't make the playoffs. And no one gets fired. And then the next year and the next year and the next year. And it's really hard to watch. I mean, Jake, you spoke about your Saints and that one thing, the one thing you said you wanted at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, at the beginning of the year, I knew we were going to lose, but at least make it interesting. And at the start of the year, we did for the most part. We would be in games for 3 quarters, and then we'd decide to lose. And that was part of the plan. And halfway through the year, we started winning games, and you had messaged me, because last year I wanted us to lose games, because we did exactly what you said. We won 6-7 games, not doing the meme. And, it was like, is anyone going to get fired? Are we going to do it? Were we just in purgatory? And if you look from the outside perspective, that's what we've done this year. We've ended up winning quite a few games towards the end, took ourselves out of a draft position, but the feelings are completely different, because you've got a young offensive head coach who's come in, and you watched him kind of take the journey with you in terms of getting better week by week. We've got a rookie quarterback who you are hoping is the answer. So there's ways about instilling hope. I think a lot of the rookie head coaches this year have done a pretty good job. Definitely
in difficult circumstances as well.
The Bears definitely got the better of the Lions coordinators, it looks like.
I mean, one of the things that when I saw Jets fans saying, "Oh, look at what Liam Cohen's done at the Jaguars. Look what Ben Johnson has done at the Bears," and it's like, yeah, but look at the quarterbacks they've got. Look at the quarterbacks that they inherited coming into that season, which you can't look at the Saints like that. You can't look at the Jets like that. Like each of those were like, there's a guy in there. Maybe it'll be good. Maybe. Let's just see what happens. And I'm still not totally sold on Tyler Shuck. I'll be honest.
How dare you?
But it's early days, and I'm not up for like crowning a rookie after a great first season. And I think Tyler Shuck had a good half a season, basically. It looks promising. Like, I think the Browns have talked themselves into Shadur Sanders as the starting quarterback next season, which I mean, hey, he's a Pro Bowler.
Oh.
He's a pro. You know, we won't need to rehash that. The Pro Bowl is obviously an absolute joke, but like when I look at some of the younger quarterbacks in the league, and I think part of what's making the NFL exciting at the moment is the young quarterbacks who are coming through. That there's this kind of new guard coming through, and Tyler Shuck is promising, and I'm really interested to see how he's going to be next season. I would like to see him with more weapons. It's easier said than done, but I do wonder how we'll look back on these quarterback drafts of recent years. And going into the last draft, I was saying you shouldn't reach for a quarterback in this draft. And I felt that Jackson Dart was a reach. I actually really like the job that Jackson Dart has done, but I felt he was a reach, and I felt there's going to be better quarterbacks in the 2026 draft. The way that the college season went, it doesn't look like there's a fantastic crop of quarterbacks coming through. A lot of the players who we were excited about did not impress at all. And we'll look back on the 2024 draft where Caleb Williams and Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, those are obviously the big four. That's how we would think of them now. But obviously there was Penix as well, that was a stupid pick at the time, and it feels more stupid as each day goes by. But whether we're able to look at that draft like people look at the 1983 draft, and obviously the Patriots and Broncos both got quarterbacks in 83 and 24 who were a significant part of helping turn their fortunes around. I'm not expecting Bo Nix to be a John Elway, but I do feel like where those quarterbacks ended up was the right place for them. And putting aside who's better out of those, I think it feels like each team got the sort of guy that they wanted.
Mhm.
Like the Broncos needed someone who could execute the Sean Payton game plan like a kind of Timu version of Drew Brees, and just put those things together the way that Sean Payton wanted. Sean Payton identified Bo Nix as, that's my guy. He can do the things I want. He's got limitations, but he can do everything I want. And then they get Bo Nix, and he does everything that Sean Payton wants. It's great. The Bears needed someone with Caleb Williams' personality to just take all of that on and be like, I know the Bears have got this awful quarterback history. I don't care. I'm going to do this. The Commanders needed someone who was going to inject life into that franchise. And the Patriots, I mean, they needed a white guy. So everyone got exactly what their fan base absolutely craves. I'm being unfair to the Boston crowd. I'm just joking about their reputation for being a little bit racist, which is overplayed. But it's a cheap joke, but I liked it nonetheless. But I've been spending a lot of time looking at the 83 draft, and people are already saying like, oh, is the 2024 draft better? There's something, and I could have saved this for random stats, but I won't. But I think that after that 83 draft, in the next 16 Super Bowls, there were only 5 Super Bowls that didn't feature a quarterback from that draft, which is incredible. And I don't think we're going to see that level.
No.
We've got our first one now, and let's be honest, if Bo Nix hadn't got injured, we'd probably be looking at Bo Nix in this Super Bowl, not Drake May. But we've got our first one. And if things had fallen differently, it could have been Caleb Williams opposite him. And the year before, it could have been Jaden Daniels playing in the Super Bowl. So I'm loving the young quarterbacks who are in there right now, from Drake May to Tyler Shuck and all these guys, because I feel the league needed it. I need to take us on a very small diversion here, because I'm horrified, Ian, by the fact that you have not watched the John Elway documentary.
I've not, no.
But I got to say, I watched it in the run-up to Christmas, very close to Christmas, with my wife, who's always up for a good sports documentary. And we'd very recently watched, finally, the Barry Sanders one that's on Prime, Bye Bye Barry or whatever it's called. And the John Elway one, like, as I was saying, the 83 draft, been doing a lot of looking into that. And everything about Elway going to the Broncos, how he became a Bronco, how he could have played professional baseball, how he snubbed the Colts because the Colts were just such a disaster and all this other stuff, and came to be a Bronco. I couldn't wait to find out more about that, and that ended up being about 30 seconds. Like, I was like, okay. I grew up really enjoying watching John Elway play, and it was very much a documentary of, and then John Elway did this, and then he did this, and then he did this, and then he did this. And I thought, I know all these things. I know that he lost all these Super Bowls, and he didn't play well in those Super Bowls, and he didn't really have a supporting cast around him. And then when he did, he won 2 in a row and was able to leave on top. It's a great story. But I just felt like watching it as an NFL history nerd. I was there like, Broncos fans will enjoy this because it's John Elway. He's the greatest figure in franchise history. But NFL fans are going to be like, I've learned nothing about John Elway here. And that was a shame because he should have been more interesting. Well, it should have been more interesting. Not necessarily he should have been. It should have been more interesting. I'll be interested, Ian, to find out your thoughts when you watch it.
Do you know what? I'll make a point of watching it next week, actually, because there's on the Game Pass, the NFL Originals, there's actually a documentary. I think it's called Elway to Marino.
Oh, brilliant.
You've seen it. Sensational. It's and the agent.
Is it on Game Pass, though? I thought it was an ESPN documentary.
It was a 30 for 30, wasn't it?
I don't know. It was
what they do have, though, is they had a series that they stopped, which is disappointing, called Caught in the Draft, where I'm sure they've done the 83 draft on that. It's not as good as Elway to Marino, which is absolutely brilliant. And loads of people involved in that came out with stuff that they had not come out with before, like 49ers almost made a trade.
Oh, I couldn't believe
it's like, whoa.
Yeah, the agent saying, Bill Walsh is offering Joe Montana 2 other players and 3 first-rounders for Elway. And you're going, I beg your pardon? That's
yeah.
Or whatever the figures were. It was insane.
Yeah, and the Raiders basically had a deal with the Colts.
They did.
And the Colts were like, well, we need a top 10 pick in this year's draft because we want to get Dan Marino. And the Raiders then arranged a deal with the Bears that they would take the Bears' first-round pick, and they were picking at like 8. And Howie Long would have gone to the Bears. Imagine Howie Long on the 85 Bears. That's just disgusting.
No.
Like, that would like be a war crime. It would be so dangerous. But the Colts, as they say it, the people in the Colts front office, the way they say it is, Pete Rozelle was like, yeah, you're not doing that.
Yeah.
The NFL literally blocked the Raiders from signing John Elway, and it was while Al Davis was at war with the NFL. And the idea that he could have played for another team in the AFC West. On a team that was loaded at the time in comparison with the Broncos at that point. Who had nothing. The cupboard was bare.
Cupboard was bare. The thing is, I'm saying, thank goodness for that, because the Raiders would have been spectacular. I mean, I can't even fathom what John Elway and Bill Walsh's Niners would have looked like. That would have been utterly terrifying. Terrifying. But the reality is, the only reason I support the Broncos is because of John Elway. When I was young, I was 6 years old in 1983. So the first time I actually saw a game, a highlights thing would have been probably I think it was late 84. It's the first time I'd ever seen it, or 85. And I was torn between Dan Marino and John Elway. I watched these 2 guys play. I thought, these guys are amazing. I want to support either him or him. My elder brother, likes the Broncos. Therefore, I became a Broncos fan. It's as simple as that. Because I didn't know who to go for.
There's something about those days in the 80s where we'd watch on Channel 4 and, okay, part of this is in the book about how it felt like the NFL at that time just, if you were watching that at home, in the UK on a Sunday afternoon and you put that on, it lit up the room. The energy in the room felt different. Everything looked different. It was the combination of the colors, it was the action, it was the energy coming from your TV. And if someone was around at that time and they close their eyes and they think about what was that like and what did it feel like, one of the things that they have to come up with is John Elway wearing the classic orange with the beautiful blue helmet, with the old Mile High Stadium, absolutely raucous. If it's bad weather, even better. But it is one of the iconic things that you can't think about being an NFL fan from the UK in the 80s without thinking of John Elway.
Yeah.
Just absolutely iconic. And this is, during the course of the season, to bring this back to the Bears, I heard so many people say, like, oh, they're so lucky. And Caleb Williams is getting lucky doing this all the time, and it's not sustainable. And I was like, in the same way, the fact that John Elway made a whole career out of this, that Joe Montana made a career out of this, that's not sustainable. The idea that the chips are down, do you know what? I find another level that where other people are starting to panic, the game slows down for me at that point. When the pressure is on, that's when I perform at my best. And that's how Caleb Williams is. And I'm obviously not going to put him in the class of Joe Montana or John Elway. And I hope that in 10 years' time, I can put him in that class. But it would take that long because we're talking about two of the greatest of all time. But you have certain players who could just do that.
Yeah.
And back in about 87, 88, the Bears played a game at Mile High. I want to say it was Monday Night Football. And I'd have been watching the highlights when we had the Tuesday evening highlights, when we then had, and that was such a big deal. Those games were only 2 days old at this point. We usually had to wait a week. Tuesday, when that came on, which the first season of that was 87, when that came on, and it's like, I've got an hour and a half, and there can be like an hour on what they decided was the best game from Sunday and Monday. So it will be the best game. They have chosen what this is going to be. And I can't remember if it went to overtime. Maybe it went to overtime, but the Broncos beat the Bears. John Elway, I don't know who the Bears quarterback was at that point in that game. But John Elway was definitely the Broncos quarterback. And I had the Topps trading cards that you could buy in the UK at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I had like my big pile of trading cards. And while I was watching games, I would have the cards of the players who were in that game. And if they did something, I'd be looking up like, oh, they're this tall, or they went to college there. And it meant nothing to me, really. But it would have other stats, and that would mean something to me. And the Broncos won that game. And I took John Elway out of that pile, and I placed it somewhere because I could not bear having the John Elway trading card in my bedroom that night when I went to sleep because I was so upset about it. But all this just to say, I wish that documentary was better than it was, because I don't think they told the story very well. And maybe it's just that the story isn't that interesting, but the draft story is interesting.
Yes.
And I think you can be an exceptional player without it being, this is a remarkable story. Like the Barry Sanders thing, the way he just suddenly retired, is a remarkable story. And I think Barry Sanders is a more interesting person and character than John Elway. And that doesn't devalue John Elway. John Elway was an incredible quarterback, and he played the game a particular way. And I miss being able to watch John Elway. And maybe it's just that thing of like wanting to feel like a kid again, and just how special those Tuesdays and Sundays felt when the room was lit up. And now we can take it for granted because we can watch every single game whenever we want. But John Elway, I mean, I dread to think how many fans exist right now because of John Elway, as in here in the UK. I would say his influence in the UK is outsized compared with that in America. Because There might have been loads of people across America who loved watching John Elway, but he wasn't necessarily turning them into fans. They were turned into fans by the fact the NFL existed there. But John Elway helped turn a lot of UK people into fans of this sport. And there'll be people listening to this like, yeah, that was the first player I've ever loved. Even if they were not Broncos fans, that they will be like, I've got these John Elway memories. And I'm hoping that in decades from now, people will be looking at all these young quarterbacks who are taking over the league and being like, yeah, that first Bo Nix game I saw, maybe not. Maybe not. Bo Nix maybe isn't that sort of player.
I know what you mean,
but,
though. Yeah.
You know, I just feel like we're kind of coming full circle. And everything, there's nothing new under the sun. But it would be great if we're able to look back at that draft class in the same way we look at 83. That those players, which I will not remember the order, but Elway, Todd Blackledge, Ken O'Brien, Tony Eason, Dan Marino, and Jim Kelly. And I mentioned Jim Kelly last because he didn't play in the NFL initially.
That's right.
He obviously went to the USFL. The other five did. And Tony Eason got to a Super Bowl, and Ken O'Brien led the NFL in passing one year and was a really good starter and had actually quite a long career. The only real bust was Todd Blackledge, who couldn't even break the starting lineup in Kansas City. But you can't bat 1,000.
No, you can't. Now, poor Jake and Patrick are going, right, guys, enough with the reminiscing.
Sorry, this is the Ben Isaacs monologue hour.
Not at all, because I'm with you 100%, Ben. And it still pains me to this day when people look at passer rating as a stat of how good a quarterback is. And look at say, John Elway's career passer rating was like 60. That ranks him 38 all time. Get out of here with that. If you never watch the man play, you don't understand.
Yeah,
and that's just a fact.
The thing is, I want to say, and I feel like I need to, I am trying to look up his stats, I'll be honest. I feel he had one 4,000-yard season.
He did.
Yes, he did. And 4,000 is this kind of thing of like, well, that's the measure of a good quarterback. 4,000 yards. He made it by 30 yards.
Yeah.
The Broncos were 9-7.
Yeah.
That year. Like, it's, he had an MVP season where he threw barely over 3,000 yards.
87.
Because he was incredible.
Yeah. Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes. Up for hyping up John Elway all the time. The guys know this. But Ben, we've got a game to talk about. And all we need from you is a score prediction. Because I don't think many people are actually looking forward to the matchup itself, apart from folk who like the Seahawks. And
Jake, it could be worse. It could be. Now, I was hoping the Broncos would win. I felt like the Broncos had earned it. But if this was Jarrett Stidham versus Sam Darnold,
yes, yeah. So, the trophy is up for grabs, Ben. The naming rights are on the line if Jake wins this, because he won it last year. And if he wins 2 years in a row, you know the rules. It's going to be called the Jake McGee Trophy. That's just wrong on every level. Sorry, Jake. No offense to you.
I have to disagree. But
So, Ben, it's the Seahawks, it's the Patriots, it's the Super Bowl. I need a score prediction from you. That's going to be the correct score.
I'm going to say this will not make me popular among Patriots fans. Even though I'd already implied that they're racist. But at least that one at least was a joke. I'm going to go Seahawks 24, Patriots 10.
Oh, a 14-point win for the Seahawks, 24-10 for Ben Isaacs. Write that one down.
When was I last on, Ian? When was I last on? How was it at the start of the mid-season? Was it?
Was it not mid-season?
God, might have been.
It was. It was like week 9.
Wow, so the Bears were already good. God, the main thing I remember is you said the Vikings were going to win 2 games all season.
I said 4. 4 games, and I was wrong. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we knew you were going to be wrong, but to be fair, they had a disappointing season. You were correct on that.
I was correct. I was correct about J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold. I was correct about that, but I was wrong about the 4 wins. So,
yeah, I remember at the start of the season seeing Seahawks fans absolutely gushing over Sam Darnold, and they were saying, and I'm paraphrasing, but I'm like, this is basically what I read. It's great we got rid of Geno Smith. Sam Darnold is such an upgrade. If you look at what he did in the Vikings offense, imagine what he can do with us. And I thought, like, the Vikings offense with like Kevin O'Connell as coach and Justin Jefferson, the best wide receiver in the game, like that one. How is Sam Darnold going to have a better season in Seattle than he did in Minnesota? And I still think those fans are deluded because I think they did feel that their offense on paper was better than the Vikings, which I think is wrong. But Sam Darnold absolutely had a better season than he did in Minnesota. It is weird seeing this version of him because we're used to like, everything turning into a pumpkin. Well, I guess not everything turns into a pumpkin, but the carriage turning into a pumpkin.
Yes.
But that carriage is still going.
Yep.
And obviously, people have said a lot about, the Patriots have had an easy schedule, an easy run to the Super Bowl, and then they play the Broncos, the top seed, and the Broncos have got Jarrett Stidham. And Jarrett Stidham costs them the game.
Yeah.
That if he doesn't do what he did, and Bo Nix is in and doesn't do that, then the Broncos are in the Super Bowl. It's as simple as that. This doesn't mean the Patriots are bad, but when I think about it, and I think about the final 4 in each conference, so the teams that were in the divisional playoffs, and I look at the 4 AFC teams, and I look at the 4 NFC teams, and if I had to rank them, I think the top 4 would all be NFC teams. And that might be a controversial statement, but I don't think any of those AFC teams are better than the 4 teams that were in the NFC playoff at that point. That doesn't mean the Patriots can't beat the Seahawks. They absolutely can. Drake May has had a phenomenal season, deservedly in the MVP race, which he shouldn't win. But the Seahawks team is built on defense, not on Sam Darnold. If Sam Darnold can just play the version of himself that he needs to play and not do too much, then it's going to be really hard for the Patriots because I think the Seahawks are so well organized. That defense is even better than the Patriots' defense. It's not the most thrilling Super Bowl. I wish we could have seen, I'll be honest, Stafford versus that Broncos defense if the Broncos had Bo Nix. That is what I would have wanted to see. I think a lot of neutrals would have wanted to see that. But this should still be fun, right? Right? Talk me into it, guys.
There should be some good big plays. Patrick, I heard from you in an awful long time. Patrick, just give us your quick thoughts. I mean, Ben's right. It's not the sexiest of matchups. I personally wanted the Broncos Bears in the Super Bowl. Ben spoke about that.
We all?
But it still has the potential for some huge plays, Patrick, doesn't it?
I mean, it does feel like the AFC's fizzled out a bit, and that's the disappointing thing, I suppose. My Jags failed against Buffalo, and then Buffalo failed against Denver, but Denver had their quarterback injured, so they kind of stumbled out of it and just left the Pats as the AFC representative by default. A Vrabel team's never going to roll over and die, though. They're going to get the absolute most out of what they've got, and whether they can wring enough out of what they've got to challenge the Seahawks, the way the Seahawks have been playing, is another question. I doubt it personally, but they're never going to go down easy.
Well said, Patrick. Well said. Right, now, Ben. Do you have a random stat for us?
I do. Not that this is my random stat, but it's still on my screen. Elway, 40 game-winning drives in his career.
It's a lot.
Just
including the drive,
I mean,
yeah.
I know I'm quite preaching to the converted here, but if you are someone listening to this who's heard about the drive, but not watch the drive. Just find it on YouTube because it's there. You can watch things about the drive, or you can just watch the drive in real time and just look at the mastery of someone running that offense and just getting things done. And my God, back to back, those 2 AFC championship games. The Broncos and Browns were absolutely brilliant teams. Brilliant teams. I know that each time the Broncos couldn't get out of their own way in the Super Bowl, but those 2 teams that the Giants and Redskins they played were absolutely fantastic.
Oh, they were monstrous.
But those Browns teams as well, like beating those Browns teams, Bernie Kosar was the peak of his game. Absolutely brilliant.
It was actually oh, sorry, didn't interrupt.
No,
it was 3 times in 4 years, because 1989 was also Broncos AFC Championship.
It was indeed. Just not as iconic as the drive.
Not as iconic, but then, yeah.
I mean, I still remember sitting watching those games on Sunday nights, and just that drama. Like, if there is, well, there isn't. If there was a kind of Hall of Fame purely for players who and moments who brought people in the UK, put the drive and the fumble as one thing. Absolutely massive.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you've not watched the drive, you owe it to yourself to watch the drive and just soak it in, because no one could have done that better than John Elway. My random stat, I wanted to have something that was related to this Super Bowl, and it's one of the players who has started a Super Bowl for the Patriots, the very first quarterback who ever started a Super Bowl for the Patriots, Tony Eason, from the 1983 NFL draft, the fabled draft, the greatest quarterback draft of all time. Tony Eason led the Patriots into Super Bowl 20 and became the first starting quarterback in Super Bowl history to not register a completion. Oof. Every pass he had was either incomplete or intercepted. I think he might have been sacked 3 times before he was eventually yanked. And Steve Grogan had to come in. He did not complete a single pass, and he never fully recovered from that humiliation. Like, the Patriots and Bears had played earlier in the season, in the regular season, and I think the Patriots spent 15 seconds in Bears territory, which isn't great. If you're new to the sport, that's not great. You would try to spend longer in the opposition half than that. But Tony Eason, the first Patriots quarterback to ever start a Super Bowl, failed to complete a pass. Not because he was knocked out of the game early, but because he was that bad in the game. That bad. Absolutely atrocious performance from Tony Eason. Steve Grogan wasn't much better, but no completions. I don't think we'll have a situation where Drake May is benched because he's had no completions. Even against the Seahawks defense.
It's unlikely.
It is unlikely. It is very unlikely.
Well, there we go. That's a wonderful random stat, Ben. Thank you very much for that. And a quick note, that was, of course, against the 1985 Chicago Bears defense.
Which admittedly, that is a tough defense.
It was pretty good. And the only game that Bears team lost that year was to Dan Marino, Miami Dolphins. How did the Patriots beat the Dolphins at the Orange Bowl? I think it was the Patriots had never won in the Orange Bowl. Was that the snowplow game?
No,
was it not?
No, it was at a very rainy Orange Bowl in Miami.
Oh, right, okay.
And it was a bit of a leveler. But the Dolphins, who were the defending AFC champions, they were so good that year. And I'm guessing they were the number 1 seed. But they hosted the AFC championship game, and the Patriots, they'd either never won at the Orange Bowl, or they hadn't won in a very, very, very long time. And for them to win that game, and we were robbed of what would have been one of the great Super Bowls. The 15-1 85 Bears against the only team that beat them.
Yeah.
That would have been amazing.
Marino put up nearly 40 points in that defense in Chicago. Can you imagine what he would have done in the Superdome?
It wasn't in Chicago.
Was it not?
In Miami. It was in Miami. And to be fair, the Bears, I believe, were playing their backup quarterback. But that doesn't take away from the fact that Marino shredded that defense, and at half time, there was a physical altercation between Mike Ditka, the head coach of the Bears, and Buddy Ryan, the defensive coordinator of the Bears, because Ditka felt Buddy Ryan was being too aggressive. He's like, stop blitzing. And that's like telling Buddy Ryan, stop breathing. And Buddy Ryan's like, nope, we play how we play. And Marino and Don Shula just knew how to attack that. And they would have had to do something different in the Super Bowl if that had been played. And to me, that is one of the great Super Bowl what-ifs. That one, and I can't think of what year it was, but it was 94 when the 49ers, I think it was this year, I know it was 94 season when the 49ers beat the Chargers, Steve Young's only Super Bowl win as a starter. And I think it was that year. I want to say the Chiefs perhaps lost in the AFC Championship game, or maybe they lost in the divisional round, but the Chiefs were really good. But Joe Montana was the quarterback of the Chiefs at that point. To have had a Joe Montana versus Steve Young Super Bowl, oh my God. And instead, we had the Chargers, who were atrocious against the 49ers.
Wiped out.
Absolute mismatch. And we had the same in Super Bowl 20. That what if it'd been the Dolphins? What if it'd been the Chiefs? Even if the same team won, just that storyline of the Bears getting revenge on Marino and Steve Young versus Joe Montana. Oh my God. And I know we've not talked about Bill Belichick, and we don't need to. The Hall of Fame snub, which makes me angry. But one of the voters has said that he didn't vote for Bill Belichick because he knows that Bill Belichick's going to get in. But there were some senior candidates that he was worried if they didn't get in now, they might not make the ballots in the future. And Ken Anderson of the Bengals and Roger Craig of the 49ers were players, I believe, that he'd voted for. And the job that Bill Walsh did with both those players, Ken Anderson, when Bill Walsh was at the Bengals, Ken Anderson is such an underappreciated quarterback from the 1980s. That, again, if you don't know much about Ken Anderson, watch some highlights and look at the job that Bill Walsh did. Bill Walsh, one of the greatest coaches of all time, and it took him about 4 goes to get in the Hall of Fame. How? We're still talking about Bill Walsh players now potentially coming in with Ken Anderson and Roger Craig. And Bill Walsh was snubbed for years. He'd won 3 Super Bowls. He'd built a dynasty. He had created an offense that the league would copy for decades, and yet the voters must have been like, nah, I don't know about this Bill Walsh guy. I'm not sure he deserves to be considered one of the greatest coaches of all time. Give me a break. Makes me angry, Ian, Jake, Patrick.
No wonder. And on that massive bombshell, a huge thank you to Mr. Ben Isaacs for joining us. We do appreciate it, Ben. If you do win with your score prediction, we will be sending you the trophy.
Excellent.
But either way...
Do you remember last year?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
We won't rehash it then.
Yes. I do remember last year.
I guarantee it.
He did guarantee it. He tried to pull a Joe Namath and it didn't quite work.
Hey, we've all tried to pull a Joe Namath in our lives.
We certainly have.
When I did it.
But a huge thank you to Ben Isaacs, author and... NFL aficionado here in the UK, basically.
I was called NFL UK royalty on Twitter recently, which my wife has enjoyed ribbing me about.
Would you like us to call you that? Then you can just show this bit of the video.
No, it's fine.
Sure?
I think. Do you know what? I love coming on this show. I don't think I've ever turned down an opportunity to come on this show, despite all my best instincts. It's so much fun. I wish, and the thing is that the name of the show is the giveaway, but I wish you guys were in London and we would I would love to have a Sunday watching games with you, or sit and eat barbecue food and just talk about the history of the game. And obviously if people are listening to this, they're already listeners. But it's great that technology allows fans to create content that creates communities. And there are loads of people who are creating NFL content, quote unquote, and I don't like the phrase, who, I'm not saying they're doing it for the wrong reasons, but I don't think they love the game as much as some other people, but they'd like to be on people's screens. They want their faces on your Instagram feed for 20 seconds, and they love that. Whereas podcasts like this are all about loving the game, building the community, and it gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling. So the idea of me coming on here and helping you put a good show together, you don't need my help, but helping you do that, I love it. Love coming on here. You guys are fantastic. And if you're listening and you haven't listened before, make sure you subscribe. And if you do subscribe, make sure you're watching and listening to everything that these guys put out, because people like you are the lifeblood of the sport in this country. You know, if the NFL became incredibly unpopular tomorrow, I don't think that would change anything that you guys are doing. So just speaking as someone within this community, thank you for everything you do.
Ben Isaacs, you will make me blush.
That might just be the whiskey.
Yeah, that warm, fuzzy feeling that I've got inside.
That's the warming scotch.
It is indeed. But once again, massive thanks to Ben, and we'll speak to you. Listen, I'm sure we'll speak to you after the Super Bowl at some point, or pre-draft, as we always do.
I mean, if my score prediction's right, you'll be speaking to me minutes after the game.
Yes.
I won't shut up about it.
No, you won't. I know.
And making sure I get the trophy.
Of course. We might even hand deliver it on opening day down in London. There you go. And then you can make us up a chicken with a big metal rod up its arse or whatever it was. I forget what you said.
I would love to roast the chicken for you guys. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And oil a bear.
And we can all help you oil your beer.
So my bear at the moment, he's got a little home. Because the problem is the frost, right? So he's a wooden bear.
Yes. And
cracks form in the wood. And then the problem is that when the frost gets in, it can really...
And expands.
Expand, yeah. So at the very least now, I've got him kind of covered. Because last winter, he lived in the house, which is not good. The humidity is not good for him. There was some mold growing on the back. So he's lived outside all through winter, but he is covered. He's had a year of being oiled. He is a very handsome boy now after all that regular oiling.
Like a bronze Adonis.
Oh, he looks wonderful. And when they did so I live somewhere called Chislehurst in southeast London, and we'd lived here for over a year before my wife pointed out that the bears are a significant thing in Chislehurst. That we have these carved wooden bears everywhere, which is why I bought one from the guy who makes them. But they are all through public spaces. It is an iconic thing of being in Chislehurst. And she was like, the Chicago Bears and the Chislehurst, but you've even got the first three letters, Chislehurst and Chicago. And the Bears, I'm like, oh my God, how did I not even notice this? But we have talked about getting a custom-made 6-foot bear. And they would be in a Bears jersey with a number on. It'd be our house number, which thankfully is 85. So even if we move, it would still have some level of significance.
That's amazing.
But my handsome bear, maybe next year he won't be on his own. We decided to not buy him a companion. We could fit another 4-foot one in his shelter right now, but our local handyman is like, I could make you a sentry for the front of the house. And you could have a big bear in there, which is, I mean, I like it, but the security measures, because some absolute rotter may try to steal this bear. And also, it's perhaps a little bit worrying that anyone who's heard this, and if they went past somewhere and they see
bear.
A carved bear with an 85, and they're like, I know who lives there. That's a bit weird. And, I'm not expecting a stalker. I'm not a celebrity, but it's just a bit weird, the idea of like random people knowing who I am and knowing where I live.
So that
isn't great.
So is what's it called? Chislehurst. Chislehurst. Beg your pardon. So is that its own sort of wee town, or is it part of London? Because you should get, like, you are entering Chislehurst twinned with Chicago. Illinois.
I mean, I need to have more of a conversation with people at the Chicago Bears, and there's a conversation I need to have with them about something else very soon. But so Chislehurst is in the borough of Bromley, which is in southeast London. And when London expanded, it took in the borough of Bromley. At that point, back in the 60s or 50s, Bromley was in Kent. And London kept expanding and took bits of Essex and Middlesex and Surrey and Kent, and it all became part of the Greater London Authority, and the M25 goes round it. So Chislehurst is a part of Bromley, but if we went back to the 60s, it's basically a little town in Kent, but is now in a London borough and is part of London. It doesn't feel like London when you're here. But you've got London buses and you vote for London mayor and all that sort of stuff. So it is very much London. We're like, for anyone who knows London travel zones, it's zone 4. But I've spent various times having conversations with a wonderful guy called Kenny, who is big in the world of flag football coaching. And he always says to me that I met him through Phoebe Schechter, and he always says Chislehurst, not London. I'm like, well, tell that to my council tax. But he lives near-ish, and he's like, it's not proper London. I'm like, I know what you mean. But yeah, we are the other shy bears, basically. And if you Googled Chislehurst Bears, you will see what I mean. There is a whole kind of tour that you can do of the public bears, and people buy their own bears to display. It is a thing.
Fantastic.
And it started because a local park or bit of woodland, a tree went down, and they decided it was cheaper to turn the felled tree into something than to remove the tree. So we got carved into like a boat with bears inside it, and it all snowballed from there. And obviously I can't have my big bear in the room, but I do have my mini Chislehurst bear.
Look at
The guy makes, and the guy who makes them isn't an NFL fan, but his assistant is a big NFL fan, a big Steelers fan. So he's probably not listening.
No.
But if he is, it's me, who I've spoken to twice about.
There you go.
About the NFL and Chislehurst Bears.
And just one final thing, Chislehurst also sounds like Snoop Dogg's nickname for Charlie Whitehurst.
Well, we've, I've talked about zesty books in the past.
You have. Oh, what have I done?
No, thankfully nothing yet. But it has been said to me that what if there was a book of like zesty swingers? There's probably a load of swingers in Chislehurst, I'll be honest. And that then Chislehurst we nicknamed it Jizzlehurst. I'm not even going to bleep that out. I'm going to keep that in. That's absolutely shocking. WINFL show after hours. Yeah.
Yes. There we are. Might have been expletive in. Beep.
Yeah, you're going to lose your clean rating.
Yes. Right. So we are going to wrap it up there, Ben. Thank you very much for joining us. Do appreciate it. As I say, we will see you either after the Super Bowl or pre-draft one of these times. So get you back on. It's always great to see you. So huge thank you once again to Ben Isaacs.
Thanks for having me.